everyday life in our business, and those tools assist us to make right decisions. First of all, the accounting. Obviously, the accounting is more than a basic tool. Everybody should understand if he wants to have a normal and formal business. Formal, I mean that we pay taxes to the government. We must understand and we must know some of the terms in accountancy, like opening or closing balance of some account means how much time we have in cash at the beginning of some period and at the end. Or we must know that the trial balance is a list of all the accounts in our business, and getting from the accountant the trial balance means getting a list that we can see how much electricity we pay during some period, how much money we have on our bank account, how much money we have sell during some period, or how much transportation we have paid, how is the size of the capital we have invested during the last 3 years, etc., etc. That's a trial balance. Then we have financial indicators like liquidity. We must understand about taxes, what kind of taxes we pay in our business, and gross and net profit. I don't want you to be accountants, but we all of us, we must understand. In order to have control of our business, we must understand at least that there is some work called accounting, and somebody has to do it. And it's better if we understand in order to analyze all the data we get from the books, from the accounting books. Cost study is a very, very, very important thing. We must have absolute control to know what's the unit cost of the products we produce or the services we sell in our business. Knowing the unit cost, it means, what is this? Sorry. Knowing the unit cost, it means that we must take all the expenses we have in our business, and by some technique of dividing the expenses into the amount of products or services we grant to the customers, by dividing it, we know the unit cost. We have to learn how to do it. It's not so difficult. For instance, if we are doctors and all our expenses are renting some place, you know, for consulting, and having a car to move from one place to another, and our salary. It's not that easy. I know how many hours of consulting I grant to my customers, let's say, and by dividing all the expense into the hours of work, I know how much I should, sorry, it doesn't mean how much I should have for 1 hour. It means how much it costs to me. And by knowing that, for instance, that 1 hour of consulting cost me $75, including all the expenses and considering all the direct and indirect expenses, I know that I can charge for 1 hour, for instance, let's say $120 or $200 or $300. It depends on you. and what kind of tool, of extra tool, you have to decide how much to charge people that are coming to get your service. First of all, you have the tool of having absolute control of the unit cost. You know for sure how much it costs you 1 hour of giving your service. Then the second tool you have is by comparing to the market. How much other doctors or other architects or other, you name it, accountants, how much they charge for an hour. At this point, you can do two things. You can say to yourself, okay, I know it cost me 75. I know that the others charge between 120 and 250. I want to take some average figure. For instance, 200. This is one way to do it. Another way to decide how much to charge for my service is using the concepts of the blue and red ocean. That concept defines that we are standing alone in the world. And what I want to do is ignore absolutely our competitors, and that by adding extra and unique values to my service or to my product, I can ignore how much my competitors charge for a product or for a service. For example, let's take the same example that we have started. I am a doctor. I know that it costs me $75. I know that the average tariff is between 120 and 250. But according to the blue ocean and red ocean principle, I consider myself unique. Why? Because I've studied in the Sorbonne in France, and I brought to my country some new techniques that are not known at all in my country, and I see myself unique, and I even write it everywhere. And I can sell my service for $300 or $400. It's a risk acting according to the blue ocean principle, because you can have big success if you are really good and if you were really able to introduce extra values to your service or to your product, but the same way you can fail. Those were a few words about the cost study. What is a cost study? What do we use it for? And there is something else that I want to say a few words about it. That's the break-even point. The break-even point is the point. Sorry, 1 second. Sorry. The break-even point is the point that we have no profit and not loss. That what we sell is the same amount of our expenses during that period. And it have many meanings. We are not going to enter to the break-even point. I just, in order to remember that you have heard it, I am mentioning it. If we had 2 days where we will have a big debate about the break-even point and the cost study, but just remember what it means. there are a few things you see that I passed that you will be able to see later. You can get the presentation through our colleagues in the YAPT, and later on you will be able to see things that I skipped. A budget. A budget is a very important thing in a business, and since a budget is a plan for a defined period of time, and since it is a quantitative expression, we can use the budget for many things. It may include planned sales volumes, cost, expenses, assets, liabilities, and cash flow. I want to explain that. We can prepare a budget out of our sales. How much? It's a plan mostly for 1 year. How much I'm planning to sell during the months. In January, I'm planning to sell 200 pieces. In February, 320, etc., etc. On the other hand, we may have a budget of the acquisitions of raw materials, let's say. So I know how much raw materials I'm going to buy during the year. I can prepare a budget, and big firms, big business prepare budgets for everything. I'm going to prepare a budget for the cash flow. We are going to see in a minute the cash flow and the importance and how do we do it. And the budget is a strategic plan that may be implemented in organizations, activities, or even a private person in measurable terms. Why am I writing here a private person? Because I can tell my wife, or my wife can tell me, you know, our budget for grocery during 1 month should be $300, and our budget for buying clothes during 1 year should be not more than $2,000. And by having a budget, a person or an organization, and now we are dealing with organizations, not with private persons, an organization may make a master plan of all the activities of the business. We have mentioned that we may have a budget for sales. We have mentioned that we may have a budget for acquisition of raw materials, and we can have a budget for all the other expenses. By using those budgets, we can make the master budget, that you can call it cash flow or you can call it master budget, but it will definitely help you in terms of needs of money, or in the contrary, in terms of extra money that you have in some peaks of the year, and so you will be prepared for everything, for the need of money or for having some extra money that you can invest in many kinds of things. We have two kinds of budgets. We have a short-term, mostly short-term is up to 1 year, and we have a long-term, mostly for big companies. We have a main budget, as I mentioned before. The cash flow is one of the main budgets, and we have auxiliary budgets that help us to make together all those budgets and make the master budget. The cash flow, that is one of the most important budgets, is a state presenting of a basic financial movement of the money that enter and leaves the company during some period, and the cash we had at the end of that period. We must we can put many columns in the cash flow in order to have the information sorted, like cash flow for sale, for collecting debts, for paying to suppliers, cash flow, investments that we have. But using those columns, we can get sorted information that is very important to know. That information and the closing balance of every kind of activity that is reflected in the cash flow. There are a couple of more things that we have talked about. Provide for the cash needs and how to meet them adequately and timely.